I'm a little late to the party, but I've finally got around to playing Bayonetta, which, if you don't know, is a game about a sexy time-traveling witch that fights with guns and has the worst case of head lice ever portrayed in a video game. This game was directed by Hideki Kamiya, who had previously worked on Devil May Cry, which is probably why this game is so reminiscent of the DMC series, with its fighting mechanics and the grading system for each battle. This game is a major focus on fan service and is one of the reasons why it's probably still popular today. The gameplay is heavily focused on combat and has some platforming in it. It is extremely similar to the Devil May Cry series because you get a grade for each combat encounter based on how many hits you take and how quickly you finish the encounter. You can customize Bayonetta's attacks by changing the weapons on her hands and feet. When fighting, you have a button mapped for hand attacks, one for leg attacks. Combos are made by intermixing them with directional inputs. A big part of the fun for this game though is finding out how various mundane game mechanics are made into exciting mechanics by adding in some fan service. For example, you often find yourself needing to rotate large objects like landmasses in space. Most games would have you just spin a wheel or press a button or something, but Bayonetta pole dances with enough torque to rotate a small landmass. Most fights pit you against multiple enemies, and these fights tend to be very easy in my opinion. With only a few enemy types, they feel very repetitive, but there are also boss fights, which become regular enemies as you progress. The boss fights are often very exciting in my opinion, even though they typically come down to just learning their attack pattern and dodging, but because of the backdrop and the scenery and the different challenges that happen during the boss fight, I was on the edge of my seat for all of them and found them to be very challenging or even unfair at times. There are a few platforming sections in this game. They mostly involve running on walls and utilizing witch time to run on water and dodge various obstacles. In addition, there are a couple of vehicle sections that offer a nice change of pace when you ride motorcycles or some more eccentric vehicles. I think it's worth noting that this game came out in 2009, and even though that was 11 years ago, this game still looks very pretty and Bayonetta still looks very sexy, especially on my 144Hz 1440p monitor. There are a lot of cutscenes since the story is mostly told through the cutscenes. There's at least one cutscene in each of the 16 chapters. Not all the cutscenes are fully animated, and are instead presented as a series of moving stills shown over a film reel. My theory is they spent too much of the budget on Bayonetta's pose animations to be able to animate all the cutscenes in motion, but really the cutscenes are still done very well. As I previously mentioned, the story is mostly told in cutscenes and is very confusing until the end of the game. Without spoiling too much, Bayonetta basically awakens after 500 years without her memories, and her informant Enzo tells her to go to a city called Vigrid to recover her memory. Also, she has to kill angels to keep the denizens of hell away from her, and is able to collect their halos to give to Rodin at a bar called the Gates of Hell where she can buy guns and lollipops. She really likes her lollipops. I thought the story was pretty convoluted and rushed at the end of the game without too much explanation, and Enzo was dropped pretty early in the game, which is a shame because I really liked his character. He provided a lot of really good comic relief. All in all, the game is pretty good and still looks very nice. It plays fluidly and has a lot of combos to do in combat to keep it interesting. Just don't expect too much out of the game story-wise. It is often on sale on Steam, so you should play it if you haven't done so yet.